Hi, I'm Joey Steele. I'm a senior paramedic with Cabarrus County EMS and a relief MAT medic. Well, I'm from Boston. Grew up, had a couple siblings. Mom and dad lived in kind of a suburban area for the first few years of my life and then moved into the inner city in Boston. I started using substances when I was about 12 years old. I was hanging out with my oldest sibling, and I don't pass any blame on him. It was just, that's who I hung out with. My brother's my best friend, still is, but some older kids, they were getting into drugs, and I think partly it had to do with depression and anxiety, and it was kind of a self-medication way. You know, I was an overweight kid. I dealt with some bullying, and it was a way to escape from that. I started drinking alcohol, and then cocaine fell into play. And for me, the opiates wasn't an injury. It wasn't a prescription. It wasn't that someone had them and I had access to them. It was introduced when you're doing cocaine all night. It was a way to come down from that high. We were using Percocet to kind of mellow ourselves back out from the cocaine high. When the Percocets became harder to get from the DEA stopping all the pill clinics in Florida, heroin is what I moved on to. It probably really became a problem at the end of high school when I graduated and started trying to get into the real world and get a job. I couldn't keep a job. I was physically dependent upon heroin. And then one day at a family cookout, a family friend had just subtly mentioned that if we ever knew anyone that needed drug rehab, to reach out to her. And that night we actually admitted to our parents that we were using, because it was me and my brother using together, and decided to give treatment a try. And that was my first attempt at treatment, and first time I realized that I actually had a problem. We went to an inpatient drug and alcohol rehab. They use Suboxone to help stop the cravings and the symptoms from opiate withdrawal. So we actually left rehab on day 30 knowing that we were going to go home and use heroin again. We actually planned it. Our thought was we were going to use it one more time and then stop. We felt like we needed to get one more high, really, and that didn't work for us. It was my 5th attempt. That was the final attempt, and I decided I didn't want to live like that anymore. Truly didn't want to live anymore. So I tried to intentionally overdose myself so I wouldn't have to live that way anymore, and it didn't work. So I shot up, and I woke up a few hours later and I had the needle stuck in my leg because I passed out, and I decided right then and there, if I didn't die today, that there's a reason I'm still here and I need to try to go to rehab one more time. Stayed at a halfway house and started working some recovery programs and getting involved with active recovery instead of trying to use one more time. After a while in the halfway house, I became one of the managers, and I had a really good friend of mine die from a drug overdose in the halfway house. One of the nights I was on duty as the manager, and we did CPR on him, and the fire department got there and worked a cardiac arrest on him, and ultimately he did die. So I kind of saw that and saw what EMS does, and it was something that kind of was in my mind. And after that night, I was like, wow, that's a really cool job. I think I'd like to do that. I think calls that pertain to drug use in EMS were a driving factor to keep me away from using, to see how bad my life could have been if I had continued on. The MAT program is specifically geared to people struggling with opiate abuse. So we will dose people with Suboxone to help reduce their cravings and withdrawal symptoms. Like I talked about when I was in rehab, that's the medication they use to help get you off of it. So we can go out to people who have had a recent overdose, or someone that law enforcement gets in touch with that's experiencing withdrawal, and we kind of see where they're at. If they're in withdrawal currently, we can start them on the medication, start dosing them to help reduce the withdrawal symptoms, pretty much eliminate the withdrawal symptoms, and help with the cravings as well. And the good thing about the medication we use, which is buprenorphine or Suboxone, it's mixed with Narcan. So it's a big deterrent on using more drugs, because people know if they use other opiates, they're not going to get the effect from it. And it also will stop a potential overdose. If they do go and use heroin or fentanyl or any other opiate, the Narcan that's in the Suboxone will stop that from happening. It's a real big way for me to give back and be an asset to the team. And I always think with people in addiction, when someone tries to speak with them on a level that they're on, if you've never felt withdrawal, you've never used drugs, you've never had an addiction, it's very hard to build trust in a relationship in someone who doesn't know what you're really going through. So I just thought it would be a way for me to give back and to, like I said, all these calls that deal with opiates really help me look and say, wow, you know, this is really, I could have ended up in, I mean, I did end up in some bad spots, but I could still be there. And it's also very rewarding to be able to go and tell somebody, look, I've been there and you can get out of it. Like you can build a life that's really amazing. Biggest advice I can give is just reach out for help. Just don't feel like you're hopeless. There's so much help out there. I know it seems like it can be hard to get sometimes, and sometimes it can be hard to get. I think our resources need to increase, and that's a big thing with this program. The resources are increasing. We're becoming mobile. We're trying to end the stigma of it. You know, that's a big part of it. Once the world can see on a big picture that this is a problem, and it's not just bad people who got hooked on drugs, it's affecting everyone. And you know, the everyday world doesn't understand it. They think just don't do it, just don't do drugs, just stop, just quit if you want to. And it's not that easy. So to be able to sit with someone and know what they're going through and potentially help them, you know, there's no specific patient. It's just everyone I meet, I just want so badly for them to try as hard as they can to get off it, because I know life is worth living and it can be done. You know, you can stop, you can build a life, you can get away from it. And you know, if you or anyone you know is struggling with opiate addiction or any type of addiction, substance use that you need help with, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Call us anytime. Our MAP medics are here every day of the week from 8 to 8. However, all of our 911 crews are trained in the program and have resources available, so please reach out if you need help.